So let me start with a question for everybody, and you don't have to answer out loud, just think about your answer. Who is your oldest friend? Friend you've had the longest time? Just think about that for a minute. Do you have someone that you knew back in grade school that you're still friends with, you kept in touch? Maybe you didn't, or that friend didn't move too far away, so you're able to keep in touch. Or maybe even if they did move far away, you're still able to keep in touch. And how about your best friend? And I have a little quibble about that term because to me, best friend suggests just one person. But I know some people say, no, I have lots of best friends. That's fine. However you want to view it. What about your best friend? How long have you known that person, and what kind of relationship have you had with that person? I was reflecting on that myself, and I was thinking, well, if I go back to early childhood, we moved at least 5 different times by the time I was a teenager. You know, not only different houses, but different countries. And then schools, I think I'd gone to about at least 4 different schools by that time. So I did. With technology, I was able to renew a friendship with one fella that I'd known from maybe about age 9 via internet and so on. So that's helped, Facebook and so forth. But I would say that most of the friends that I still have contact with, good friends, are probably from college, in my case. Now, maybe some of you have friends that are a little bit older than that. Of course, once you get to a certain age cohort that some of us are in, then unfortunately, some of our good friends are no longer with us. As I think back to a number of good friends who are awaiting a time of restoration. Hope to see them again soon, but they're not available right now. In fact, one good friend that I was the best man at his wedding. We had a really good friendship. Of course, he died in his late 50s, so he's no longer around, no longer available. Well, as you might have guessed, what I'd like to talk about is friendship. And maybe to start with, we could go to the scripture. You could turn there or not turn there, depending on your preference. In 1 John 4:20. 1 John 4:20. If anyone says, I love God, and yet hates his fellow Christian, he is a liar. Because the one who does not love his fellow Christian, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has not seen. And why do I start with that scripture? Well, I would hope that all of us would want to claim a friendship with God. That we would like for God, for Jesus to be able to say, hey, you are my friend. And of course, Jesus did say that during his ministry. He called his disciples his friends. And we would like to be included in that. So if we want that friendship with God, what about our relationship with our fellow man, and specifically our fellow believer, our fellow Christian? Let's go to Matthew 13, and for those who like for a text for a message, that's going to be my text, Matthew 13, and most of the chapter, at least up through about verse 23. And many of you are familiar with this parable of the sower. And so let's just go ahead and start reading it. I'm reading from this version, which is the New Century Version. And starting in verse 3 in Matthew 13, Jesus starts telling this story, this parable. A farmer went out to plant his seed. He goes out to sow. And while he's planting, some seed fell by the road. Birds came, ate it all up. Some seed fell on rocky ground where there wasn't much dirt. Seed grew very fast because the ground was not deep. But when the sun rose, the plants dried up because they did not have deep roots. Verse 7, some other seed fell among thorny weeds, which grew and choked the good plants. And some other seed fell on good ground, where it grew and produced a crop. Some plants made 100 times more, some made 60 times more, and some made 30 times more. You people who can hear me, listen. Of course, the disciples are sometimes not totally clear. They're not completely understanding what is the message that you're trying to teach us. And of course, Jesus explains in the following verses about understanding the truth about the kingdom of God, but I'm going to apply it slightly differently today. So let's go ahead and read his explanation starting in verse 18. Jesus said, so listen to the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word about the kingdom, doesn't understand it, the evil one comes and snatches what was sown in his heart, and this is the seed that's sown along the path. Nothing comes of it. Verse 20, the seed sown on rocky ground is the person who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy, but has no root in himself and does not endure. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, immediately he falls away. Then, verse 22, the seed sown among thorns is the person who hears the word, but worldly cares and the seductiveness of wealth choke the word, so it produces nothing. But, verse 23, the seed sown on good soil, this is the person who hears the word and understands and bears fruit, yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. So here we see 4 categories of response in terms of the seed that is sown. And what I'd like to do is apply this to friendship. So it's not specifically or directly what Jesus is applying it to. This is what I'm applying it to. So you can take it or leave it, maybe as a framework to help us understand. Certainly, I think it helps me understand the relationships that we can have with one another, with other people. So let's go back to verse 19. The seed is sown. It's there. It makes contact with the ground. How could we apply that to a relationship? Well, to me, this is the relationship that amounts to a bare acquaintance. You meet someone. You say hello. But there's no connection. That not exist. And perhaps we can start off thinking about the church in general. And I'm not saying right now with us here, because most of us have known each other for a long time, and we have, I would hope, a good, strong relationship. But when we meet somebody new, is there that just that touch of the seed on the ground, and that's it? Said, hi, how are you? My name's so-and-so, your name's so-and-so, good, bye. That's it. We're done. Well, that can sometimes happen. We don't make the effort. And I understand friendships are two-way streets, but sometimes one or the other or both don't really we can't be bothered for whatever reason. Don't make the effort. So it's an acquaintanceship, and that's it, done. All right, so that's the very first level of friendship. It doesn't really count as friendship, barely counts as acquaintanceship. All right, second level, verse 20. What do we read? It talks about the seed. The person immediately reacts, is joyful, is excited. So, applying it to meeting someone, maybe initially we're effusive. Oh, we're excited. Oh, it's great to meet you, and so on. And yet, the first time something inconveniences or bothers him or her, they ghost you. I was talking to someone about, this person was telling me about using a dating app, all right, to meet someone. And of course, dating apps, you have to look through, I guess. I haven't used one. Haven't needed to, don't plan to. But I'm told that you go through and you view profiles of people, and I guess if a profile matches, you select someone to meet. And this had happened more than once. A person had selected, oh, this person looks interesting, and so on. Let's go ahead and meet, and maybe make the initial contact. And they say, yeah, sure. And Well, meet such and such a place, show up. The other part never shows up. They seemed excited, they seemed effusive, they seemed, what happened? I don't know. So there can be that initial excitement, but it's evanescent, it's superficial. It's there maybe initially, hey, you look attractive to me, and then, whatever. I don't follow up. But maybe we do meet one or two times. And I think we've probably all known people over the years. I think most of us are old enough to know individuals who did seem really excited to meet us, happy to meet us, happy to get to know us, and then nothing, done. So that's second category of friendship. Is that a little better than the basic acquaintanceship? I guess so. Not much better though, really, is it? Because, okay, they're excited, they seem to want to know us, but that's about all it is. All right, third level of friendship, applying this parable. I guess we're down to verse 22. Verse 22, the seed sown among thorns. Person who hears the word. Okay, there is a response now. This isn't just, the first time there's something inconvenient, I'm done. This person lasts for a while. The friendship continues for a while. Lasts a little longer. But over time, something gets in the way. Maybe it could be envy. Sometimes people are envious of others, envious of financial success or marital success, or resentment over some perceived slight, or disagreement. Now that's a biggie. Sometimes we can disagree with someone. And I have seen that, by the way, perhaps it seems more obvious in recent years, the last 20, 25, 30 years, where people disagree over doctrine. That's it, that friendship, all right, gone. That friendship, no, there's trouble or persecution. There's not my friend anymore. Or politics, disagreement over that. Not my friend anymore. So how real, how true, how genuine was that friendship? And then let's go to verse 23, level 4. A level 4 friendship. Seed sown on good soil. Here's the word. Understands, bears fruit 160, 30 times what was sown. Doesn't abandon what was sown. What was sown actually produces so much that there is, so much there, it's just going to continue to be there forever, indefinitely. This is what I would call a David and Jonathan type friendship. We're all familiar with David and Jonathan, right? Go to 1 Samuel 18 there, and their souls were knit together. Jonathan loved David so much, he didn't care if he didn't become king. He understood his father's failings. He understood that David would replace him as king once Saul died. But that didn't bother him, because the friendship transcended those families. Now for Saul, that was a biggie. Saul tells David, what? You realize this guy is going to take what's yours and you're still friends with him? What's wrong with you? But that's the kind of friendship that level 4 friendships are about. Abraham's friendship with God. Let's go a couple of scriptures here. 2 Chronicles 20. 2 Chronicles 20, something that we read both in the Old and the New Testament. 2 Chronicles 20 and verse 7. And I'm just reading it for the friendship lesson here. Our God, this is Jehoshaphat speaking, you forced the people who lived in this land as your people, Israel moved in. You forced out the people who lived in this land as your people, Israel moved in, and you gave this land forever to the descendants of your friend Abraham. Your friend Abraham. And it references that again in Isaiah, in the book of James. Several references, so we don't need to go to all of them. You can certainly look them up if you're interested, to Abraham being God's friend. And in fact, if you go back to Genesis, and God is about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and he says, I'm going to let Abraham know what I'm planning to do. Because Abraham was his friend. And we'll talk a little bit about a few characteristics of friendship, but one of the key characteristics of friendship is sharing. You cannot be a friend. You know, this level 4 friendship that yields fruit abundantly, you cannot do that if you are not sharing. And by sharing, I don't just mean money. You know, if I become, you know, if I won the lottery tomorrow, which I won't because I don't have a lottery ticket, and I don't even know if the drawing is tomorrow, but if I did, I guarantee you I would have a lot of friends, new friends, or friends who remembered me all of a sudden. Say, hey, Reg, don't you remember? Yeah, sure. Where were you before I won the lottery? Oh, well, I always meant to get in touch with you. Which reminds me, a couple of people, I was talking about friendships from college. In the last 6 months, 12 months, I've had a couple of people call me from college. They ended up retiring, and they were wondering, where's so-and-so, and out of the blue, they found my contact information. They called, and we kind of caught up on what had been going on in their lives, my life, and it was really nice, really interesting to do that. But if you have money, you have a lot of friends. But those friendships are more transactional. I'm your friend because you have money. Now, they don't say that. They don't come out and say that directly, you know. Or I'm your friend because you have power. You can do something for me. That's why I'm your friend. You know, politicians in office have lots of friends. You know, but sometimes you wonder, how many of these people are really my friends, would be really level 4 friends? And how many are just friends? You lost the election? Okay. Do I even know you? You know, they're not your friends anymore. But a level 4 friendship. But God's friendship with Abraham was clearly that level 4 friendship. He trusts Abraham because Abraham had proven himself. He'd shown he was willing to sacrifice his son, Isaac, in the same way that God himself was willing to sacrifice his son. And so God trusted Abraham, and Abraham was his friend. And that's the kind of friendship. It's a deep, that level 4 friendship is deep, it's profound, it's lasting, dare I say permanent, unmovable, steadfast. As I was writing some of these notes to myself, I was thinking of friendships in the Bible. Obviously, we talked about David and Jonathan. What about Paul and Barnabas? Remember those guys? Paul and Barnabas working together? Yes, in Acts? What were they? What level of friendship did they have? Remember when they had a dispute over whether they should take John Mark with them on a mission? They argued, right? And they separated. Maybe at that point, I'm thinking, maybe at that point it went back to a level 3, where, okay, we're getting close to separating here. Now, it all worked out well later in the end. I think we can infer that. So it was ultimately a level 4 friendship. Jesus with his disciples, they were his friends, weren't they? Yes? They were his friends. Just nod your head yes if you agree, and shake your head no if you don't. What about Judas, though? What was his friendship with Judas like? You know, he's there for 3.5 years. Is that a level 4 friendship he feels with Jesus or with Judas? What about Judas from Judas's perspective? You know, we can speculate. Maybe for Judas it was a little transactional. He's thinking, this guy's going places. He's going places, and he's going to get rid of the Romans, and then those of us who are close to him will get positions of power, importance. Will be, maybe, we don't know. You know, Jesus had obviously many followers. And what about us? We're talking about, you know, other people being friends to us, but what about us? What kind of a friend am I? Am I the level 1 guy who says, hey, yeah, nice to meet you, and, you know, I forget your name last time. I have to confess, and I don't know if it's just a human weakness or what. I forget people's names. I forget people's names. Now, I know some people who are really good with names, and I suppose if I really made a concerted effort, I could improve. And yet, I still struggle with that. To the point that when I meet someone I haven't seen in a while, even if I do remember their name, I will tell them my name first. I'll say, Reg Killingley, in the hope that they will say their name too. And not test me and say, you don't remember my name, do you? I remember your name, but you didn't remember mine. So you didn't really care about me, did you? No, I do care, but I don't remember your name. Help me. Be a friend and tell me your name. And don't keep me guessing just because I'm awkward and forgetful and have that human weakness. Just tell me your name. And if I did know it, great. Nothing's lost by telling me your name. But again, what kind of friend are we? Or are we the friend who, okay, we're excited initially, but then we don't seek to follow up? I remember, this was probably a long time ago because there were more people around here, but I'd meet someone and they'd say, hey, we got to do lunch. And I remember decades ago, the first time I heard that phrase, I thought, what do you mean do lunch? What is do lunch? Is that eat lunch or how? But I guess that's been around for a while, hasn't it? Yeah, everybody does lunch, we do lunch, okay. And then you'd say, all right, okay, well, what date works for you? Oh, well, I didn't really mean, I just said it. I didn't mean for us to actually have to get together. I said, no, if we want to do, let's set a date. Let's go, and where do we go? Where do you want to go? And, otherwise, don't bother saying it. If you don't mean it, don't say it. I'd rather have that. Or, are we the kind of friend who, if we do have a significant disagreement, and again, let's get back to the 2 taboo topics. Don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics. But let's get back to those things. What if you have a friendship with someone who has different religious views than you do? Can we be a friend? Different political views? Or we say, nope, sorry, that's non-negotiable. And I'm not, if you have that view, I'm not here to criticize you or whatever. You have your view and you're absolutely entitled to your view. Just throwing out the question, does that transcend our obligation, shall I say, to be a level 4 friend? Kind of like the friendship that God expects of us. As I said, I've had people who've become estranged from me personally over both church and political issues. I've had some people, a lot of times my email said in effect, I'm paraphrasing, they didn't use these exact words, but it says, saying, look, I don't really want to hear from you again because we don't agree on this, whether it's religious or political or whatever. And I honor those wishes. If somebody says, I don't want to hear from you again, I will respect their wishes. And if they change their mind, I did have a friend a while back, changed his mind on some issues and contacted me again. Hey, no problem my end, no recrimination, no, oh, you told me you didn't want to hear from me. Now you want to hear from me? Oh, you need to come grovel. Or no. You're happy to hear from me, I'm happy to hear from you. You don't want to hear from me, I'm sad, but that's your prerogative. So how good a friend are you to others? Let's look at a couple of scriptures in Proverbs. Proverbs, of course, has many scriptures that deal with friendships. So Proverbs 17, let's go to a few of these. And I think hopefully these are all describing those level 4 friendship. Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves you all the time, and a brother helps in time of trouble. You know, we have the phrase, a fair weather friend. You know, the sunshine patriot kind of thing. But a friend is a friend who helps you, who's there for you when you are in need, who looks out for you when others don't. Chapter 18 of Proverbs, verse 24, 18:24. Some friends may ruin you, but a real friend will be more loyal than a brother. And you know, when it says here in this version, some friends may ruin you, what kind of friend is that anyway? And I remember having a discussion with a friend many years ago, a female friend, and she said, Reg, you know, you call just about everybody you know a friend. She said, some of these people, they're not friends of yours, they're just acquaintances. You don't. She said, a friend is someone you have to spend all this time talking with. And I've discussed that with other people, and I don't know if there is a difference, you know, between men and women. I know some of the women that I know, including my wife, if she has a friend, she has to talk to that friend, and talk to that friend a lot, and share a lot. You know, it goes both ways. I can feel I have a friendship with someone, I don't feel the need to talk that much. You know, that maybe that's just me. I'm sort of laconic. I remember years ago, a church that I worked at, we were preparing a feast site, and you know, I'd gone to check out a location for a feast, and came back, and one lady asked me, well, what's it like? And I said, well, it looks fine. Looks like it'll work. Fine. And then she asked my wife. And then she told me later, said, look, I like talking to your wife a whole lot more than I like talking to you. Because she'll tell me, she'll give me all the details. She'll describe what the hotel is like, what the location is like. She gives me the full picture. You just say it's okay. You know, but that's perhaps my style, you know. So if you like a friend who doesn't say much, I'm your guy, you know. Now, having said that, my wife will say that sometimes I talk too much. So I guess it depends on the context and the time. But, you know, a true friend here will be more loyal than a brother. Let's see, 27, Proverbs 27, and verse 9. The sweet smell of perfume and oils is pleasant, and so is good advice from a friend. And I think those of us who've had longtime friends will remember the times that a friend will have given us advice, maybe a nudge, maybe a push, maybe the kind of encouragement we needed at the time. Not too much, but just the right amount. That's the kind of friend we truly value. That's the kind of friend we want to be. Let's see, a couple of scriptures here in Proverbs that talk about the transactional friendships I was telling you about. Proverbs 14 and verse 20, 14:20. The poor are rejected even by their neighbors, but the rich have many friends. But again, those friendships are, as I said, because of the wealth. You know, and I've sometimes thought, if you're in that situation, you're wealthy or you're powerful, you have many friends, do you ever sit and think, I wonder how many of these are true friends? And of course, sometimes you'll read that the people they truly trust are those who were their friends before they became rich or before they became powerful. Then they know those friends were my friends back then, so they're more likely to be true friends. And then Proverbs 19 and verse 4, I think, is a similar thought in that scripture. Let's just go there. Wealthy people are always finding more friends. Wealthy people are always finding more friends, but the poor lose all theirs. You know, who wants to be the friend of a poor person? You know, because they're going to ask you for a handout, right? So, no, but if you're a level 4 friend, you're going to be there. Now, you may not be able to afford to give them much, but maybe just being there for them is going to be important. So again, the question, how good a friend are we to others? You know, who do you know as a friend that you can count on no matter what? Who do you know that you can count on no matter what? You know, you hope it could be a spouse, maybe a child, maybe a neighbor. How much do you open up to a friend or feel safe doing so? You know, I caution people there because I'm not suggesting you go open up to just anybody. Some people it is safe to open up to, some people it is not. I have someone who is a dear friend, but I do not open up to this dear friend because this dear friend has a habit of sharing with friend, not out of malice, but that's just the personality. They like to share. So if I don't want something shared, I don't share that detail. That's just respect for that person, respect for privacy of what I might want to say. You know, Jesus, in Matthew 26, let's turn there. Remember, the disciples were his friends. He'd spent day and night for 3 years with them. And in Matthew 26, and I think this is important, and verse 38, he tells them, "My heart is full of sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and watch with me." Watch with me. He shares with them how he's feeling. You know, a lot of times you don't know how somebody is feeling. You may think, oh, they have it all, they feel fine, they don't have a care in the world. But if that's your friend shares with you, no, I'm terrified. Or I'm feeling the weight of this. Help me. Be there with me. Pray with me. Stay awake with me. That's what you do with friends, and that's what friends do. Now, his friends, sadly, they're human. What did they do here? They fell asleep. They were tired. And one of his good friends even goes so far as to deny even knowing him because he's scared. At that point, was Peter acting like a level 4 friend? No, he's scared. But he repented, he changed, and certainly became that level 4 friend thereafter. Now, one thing I want to also emphasize is the bosom buddies, these close friends, don't always agree. You know, if you have that kind of friendship, it doesn't mean that hey, we're going to agree on everything. No. Now, clearly, you're probably going to agree on a lot of things, but you don't agree on everything. There's a proverb there, and you don't have to turn there, 27:17. It talks about iron sharpening iron. You know, you can help each other, have sharper ideas, understanding, whatever it is. Proverbs 27:6 also talks about the wounds of a friend being faithful. A friend may say something that, yes, it can hurt, but it actually helps. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Whereas the kisses of an enemy, and you think, oh, the kiss, that's nice, but they're deceitful. So, friend will correct you out of love and concern. And you can trust a friend who corrects you. And we need friends who will help us to see things we can't see. We need friends who will provide constructive criticism for our good. We don't need flattery in our lives. Well, maybe a little, but genuine friends are going to be friends who are constructive, who lift us up. Ultimately, that level 4 friendship makes you a better person and makes the friend a better person. You mutually help each other be better people, better than you would be without that friendship. So we should be in relationships with people where we are encouraging them in all the right ways and helping them grow in all the right ways, and they're helping us do the same, grow in the right ways. In 1 John 5:16, if anyone sees his fellow Christian committing a sin not resulting in death, he should ask, and God will help him out. You help a friend. You're there to help. You're not there to gossip. That is not what a level 4 friend does at all. Friendship is sacrificial, solicitous, transparent, no secrets. John 15, starting verse 9. You can turn there if you want. John 15, verse 9. Just as the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. Remain in my love. If you obey my commandments, you will remain in my love, as I have obeyed my Father's commandments and remain in his love. That's our friendship. We have that relationship because we love and respect one another. And I've told you these things, verse 11, so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. My commandment is this, to love one another just as I have loved you. No one, verse 13, no one has greater love than this, that one lays down his life for his friends. Now you talk about that level 4 friendship, willingness to lay down your life for your friend. And you are my friends if you do what I command you. I no longer, verse 15, I no longer call you slaves because the slave doesn't understand what his master is doing, but I've called you friends because I have revealed to you everything I heard from my Father. And I've mentioned this already, but I've known people over the years, maybe it would be on a level of acquaintanceship, I don't know, who to me seemed extremely secretive. They didn't want to share very much. And sometimes these friends would ask me to share a lot, and that's a lot of information. I'd be willing to do that, but they wouldn't reciprocate. They'd keep things to themselves, and people are entitled to do that. I'm not telling you have to be any different. But I think a friendship, here Jesus is saying, I call you friends because I've revealed to you everything I heard from my Father. I'm not keeping secrets from you. I'm sharing I'm open. What you see is what you get. I'm transparent. I am that level 4 friendship. You didn't choose me, verse 16. I chose you and I appointed you to go and bear fruit. Now that ties back into what we read in Matthew 13, 100-fold, 60-fold, 30-fold. So that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he will give you. This I command you, to love one another, to be friends. We are called to be friends. Not like Job's friends, but to be true level 4 friends who are willing to lay down our lives for one another. And we need friends like that, but we also need to be friends like that. So, brothers and sisters, friends, let's get on with the business of being level 4 friends.